Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got former Outlaw member and former Hells Angel member, Bob and PeeWee.
Yeah. And that's where he screwed up. That's why his club is divided now. You know, half of them are like, fuck him, and the other half are like, no, he's still the boss, you know?
Oh, you can't run a club like that.
No, and when he gets out, Bob, it's going to be ugly, you know, and he gets out pretty soon. And it's going to be ugly, but his club is torn in half about it.
I couldn't believe I saw them guys pull into Florida. Like, Outlaws always owned Florida with a lock and key.
Bro, they're in Vegas now, too. The Pagans.
Oh, so they're stepping on everyone's toes.
They're in California. And they're all over the place.
And they're in California. Yeah, they're by Long Beach. But how they did that, Bob, is they became good friends with the Mongols. And the Mongols said, you can move wherever we are. We'll move wherever you are. So they're just intermingling everywhere, bro.
That's crazy.
And the Mongols and Outlaws had a truce out in Chicago, and then some friction started happening. I don't know really what happened with that.
Well, I had one outlaw tell me to my face, like last year, at the end of last year, you know, he told me the biggest problem they got is with the Pagans. And they said that they were keeping them out of Wisconsin. And I says, yeah. And I said, well, don't. He said, yeah, that's who we got problems with. That's what he said to me. And I told him, well, don't you have problems with the Mongols too? And he says, yeah, we do now. Yeah, we don't get along with them. And I says, oh, hold on a minute, man. I remember when you guys were like bosom buddies. And he says, this is what he told me. He says, yeah, well, one of our members down south punched little Dave in the face, and that set the whole thing off. Jeez. And usually, you know, something like that, a national president comes in and gets smashed in the face. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah. Wow.
And there was the stupidest shit, too, you know?
There was something going on when I was around, too, with the Mongols. And I thought they were going to join our club for a minute there, to be honest with you.
I did too, Bob.
Yeah, I really thought they were patching over.
The Mongols? We're going to patch over?
I thought so. At least the way it kind of felt to me. Nobody
felt that way to me.
Yeah, nobody said anything official. They don't talk to the guys, you know, from the States. It doesn't reach all over the place what their intentions are.
Yeah.
Especially if it's only in the planning stage. It's less people that know, the better, right?
Right.
Just the way everything goes.
And now them guys are the Mongols and the Pagans, they're bosom buddies, you know, they're the best of friends, you know.
See, that's a weird thing. And I think the big thing that screwed it up between the Outlaws and the Mongols was we had a CI in our club. That's how come we were all in jail. So we had this CI in our club, and he rose all the way to chapter boss.
Oh man.
He was sitting at all the big boy meetings and everything, man. So
was my vice president. He was the same, Bob. Wearing a wire, everything.
Yeah, man. Bringing him into the meetings. I used to have to wrestle the cell phone out of his hand at meetings. Give me that, man. You know what I mean? And anyways, the CI also went into the States, and at that time our guy at the top was a guy named Frank from Indianapolis, and Frank got recalled because of our snitch Frank, the National Sergeant of Arms from Detroit, and a few other guys near the top, and they all got screwed over.
Wow.
And one time I was sitting with the CI talking to him because I didn't know he was the CI at the time. And he had a Mongols ring on his finger.
Wow.
You don't trade that between clubs.
No. So that was weird. That's weird.
I thought so.
You know, it's funny what Bob was just saying is there was a guy in the Angels. He used to be in the Dirty Dozen when they took over the Dirty Dozen. And that's what's amazing. When Bob said they came into town, they took over like 6 clubs. Because the Angels, they would tell these big clubs, hey, we'll absorb you, but you got to prospect.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this Dirty Dozen, they've been around. They ran Arizona. That was their state, man. I don't give a shit who you are. They didn't let nobody. I remember way back in the early 80s when I was in the Sinners, a little tiny club out of Milwaukee. I remember way back when they were all brawling over the same bull, you know? And I was losing my train of thought here. I do that the older I get, bro. So, so what I was saying is the guys in Milwaukee that I knew, all the old timers and stuff, all them guys are gone. It's all new guys. It's how fast the clubs are flipping over, you know? And nobody, if everybody got along, well, you know, everybody's got to puff up and show who's the baddest. I used to tell the Angels all the time, hey, man, let's not be so arrogant and, you know, we're the baddest. Everybody else, we never had any friends. So getting back to the Dirty Dozen guy, my train of thought came back.
Yeah.
I went to his house, and I didn't know that Pat Matter from Minnesota, the one, you know, the guy that ratted on like 40 of us, he told the feds that I was a Midwest distributor of.
Jeez.
Now, hey man, I wish I was. I could use the cash.
I know, right?
Right. But the Midwest distributor, bro, I wasn't even a dime bag guy, you know? So I never even sold it. So every time I seen this Mesa Mike was his name. He was a confidential informant. That son of a killed a woman, cut her head off with a knife. I read the paperwork. And he got caught with a bunch of meth, and to get out of it, just to show you, and Bob would know this, you know, because he sees the shady shit from us being in clubs. The cops told him, hey, well, forget about the murder thing. You just set up these other angels.
Wow.
Pretty much like Sammy the Bull set up John Gotti.
Well, our snitch had the same thing because his handlers sent him to me. They said, now you got to go to that guy and see if you can get some off him. And he came twice to my house. And I don't know what you're talking about. Go away, right? And they were getting serious with me. So finally, they did it through another guy in our chapter that trusted him. I'm like, I don't trust him. He's like, oh, I'm good. It's okay. Here it is. Go away. And he got pitched for that, and they charged me with it too. That's the only indictable offense they had me on, and all that big stupid investigation.
I know, and it's stupid. You know, it's dumb. But Mike would always say to me, hey, bro, I got a pound of meth. I'll give it to you for $6,000. You could sell it for 10, make $4,000. I said, listen, kid, I don't do it and I don't sell it. I don't know anybody who even buys it. So it doesn't matter if it was $2,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I'm like, get off of it. So every time, Bob, I run into this bastard, he tried to sell me that pound of
every time. Yeah.
Every time.
And they're so obvious after a while, aren't they?
You know, I like to agree with you and say, yeah, but I swear to God, Bob, I never had a clue with this punk, you know?
Of course, our guy made it to chapter boss, so I should.
Yeah, you told me that. So this guy transferred his other charters just to get to where the cook was, you know?
That's what he did. He was on chapter number 3 already, and in each chapter, he went to somebody and bought something from them. Yeah. So they kept trying to get pew-pews off me because I had a nice collection, and they're big time in Canada, right? Just for having one. So I had a really nice collection of them because it was going to get bad. You may as well have one, may as well have 2, may as well have 4, whatever, right? You know, right? And he kept asking me for them, and I kept turning them down. But because our chapter guys were so worried about money, we didn't talk amongst each other and said, hey, Screwball over here just bought such and such from me. And then he asked you for the exact same thing. Like, what's going on here? We never talked amongst each other like that. We kept everything that we did private, right?
Yeah.
Like he got right up to the guy running the ship in Canada. He got him too. He got all of us.
Yeah, so, I know the feeling, bro. Pat did the same with me, but
what happened with the Dirty Dozen guy? PeeWee?
Well, the Dirty Dozen guy, you know, I'm standing in his garage. Well, first of all, let me back up. I was driving a semi through Phoenix. Now, this is exactly how I should have caught it. Was like an informant thing. He calls me on a cell phone. He goes, "Hey, PeeWee, what's going on?" I said, "Hey, Mike, what's up?" And he goes, "Hey, where you at?" Now, why would he call and ask me that? I'm going right through Arizona. You know why? Because the feds told him I was. And he says, "Where you at?" I said, I'm going through Phoenix. I had to come down here to pick up this Peterbilt and take it back to Las Vegas. He says, "Why don't you stop by? We'll go to lunch." And I said, "All right." So I swing by, park the truck in front of his house. I walk in. He's working on his bike. He's got his patch on, and and he's on his knees down there, and he's messing around with the bike. And I said to him, "Hey, Mike, can I use your piss or I got to piss?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's in the house down the hall to your right." I go in his house. Above his fireplace was all these pictures on the walls, right? All Dirty Dozen pictures. No Hells Angel, nothing. And he's a Hells Angel now.
Wow.
Nothing. It was all Dirty Dozen. So I kind of looked at it. I thought, that's weird, you know? So I walked in, took a piss. I came out, and he said to me, "Hey, man, I don't know why you don't want to take that deal. That's a good deal. This Mexican dude I know, he's the guy who makes it up. You can pay him whenever you can, man. He doesn't rush you on the time, and he'll front it to you." Well, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit anybody. I thought in my head, hey, piss on him. I'll rip him off.